Welcome to Global Matters. On this program, we'll bring you international issues that shape the world, issues of global agenda that determine our national, common interests, especially trust in Africa and indeed in Nigeria. My name is Tunde Alabi. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the program today. This is our last program for the year 2021. Oh my God, the year has ended indeed. After today, I won't see you again until next year. Yes, you heard me right. I won't see you again until next year, 2022. Never mind, it's just a few days away, few hours away. And it's a countdown to the new year. And still in the mood of the holidays, let's wish you a happy new year in advance, an amazing holiday. Celebrate with some common sense. So remember, we have COVID out there. There on the program today, there are issues to shape the year 2021, and these issues, in many cases, have a great impact on the world. We will do a quick look at a few of these global issues of significant impacts. The surge in COVID-19 infections, especially the rapid spread of the Omicron variant of the pandemic, may have dashed the hope of many New Year revelers as countries have had to scale down celebrations or cancel New Year Eve events. In some states in the United States, like New York, New Year's Eve celebration in New Times Square will be scaled back. Some major cities in Europe, where there's a spike in the Omicron strain, have announced that events have been cancelled. In Nigeria, the government has put a restriction on public gatherings, especially New Year crossover worshippers. For other cities around the world, plans are still underway to celebrate the iconic event, but with safety precautions in place. The pandemic has continued to set nations back since its discovery in 2020, and this year alone, two strains emerged, the Delta and Omicron strains. These two variants have continued to spread despite international control. In vaccination, local authorities continue to contend with community spread in most cases. A major concern by the United Nations is inequitable distribution of vaccines, with African countries recording the lowest deployment of COVID-19 vaccines. This concern led to travel restrictions on poor countries by the rich countries, including on Nigeria. Another important event that shaped the world events to shape the world in 2021 is a global revival of the fight to keep climate change under check. In the midst of the diplomatic battle over COVID-19, about 200 countries converged on Glasgow in the UK to seek actionable ways to keep global temperature well below 2 degrees at the United Nations Climate Change Conference. However, nations failed to abide by the most ambitious goals of 2015 to phase out coal and fossil fuel subsidies, but rather accepted to gradually phase down these major culprits of carbon emission and global warming. Hopefully, with the new global commitment by world leaders and the US recommitting itself, the world will start taking actions on global warming and climate change. 2021 will also go down as a year military coup resurfaced in Africa. 4 successful coups were recorded across the continent: Chad, Mali, Guinea, Sudan, up from one in 2020. These coups have questioned the authorities of ECOWAS and the African Union to rein in military interferences in the region. So much for 2021. While we would love to really discuss these global issues that shape 2021 and how they may impact on the world in 2022, we're joining millions of people around the world to celebrate late Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. The late Archbishop now lies in state at St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, South Africa, with monarchs across South Africa filing past the coffin to pay their last respect to the man that helped end apartheid in South Africa and led the South African Reconciliation Commission, a Nobel Peace Prize winner. The death of the Anglican bishop and anti-apartheid and human rights activist Desmond Tutu has been described as the end of an era, considering the prominent role he played in the liberation of South Africa and indeed on Africans. In today's edition, we should look at the life and times of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, his impacts and legacies in South Africa. We shall also look at his high and low moments, both as a priest and an activist. Joining me to look at his life and times is Collins Thomas, Collins joins from Petersburg in South Africa, and he is the president of the Nigeria Union of South Africa. He founded the Bleed Love for School and Daycare in Petersburg. Also joining us is Dr. Emeka Ugu. Dr. Ugu is based also in South Africa. He is the president of the Nigerian Doctors Forum, also in South Africa. Glad to have you guys join us on the show today. We'll quickly go on this very short break. When we come back, my guest will be joining me from South Africa to look at this topic. Don't go away. The world has become more connected than ever before. Every continent, color, race, language, and religion, even government, move towards common goals. We now live in a global village. Here on this program, we'll bring you global issues to shape our world.
Government can do a lot with tax revenues collected for health and education.
The role of the European Union is to accompany a partner, that is Nigeria, in offering our lessons learned to see whether together we can improve that situation.
The emphasis on education, on vocational training, on the development of entrepreneurship is absolutely critical to its democracy.
The Nigerian government, we would ask them to follow up the investigations that we have had, the evidence that we have gathered, and ultimately we made a number of recommendations.
As we travel the world, we explore these issues of international and diplomatic relevance. Indeed, the global agenda that determine our national and common interests. With me, Tunde Alabi, live on the IT. The world has become more connected than ever before. Every continent, color, race, language, and religion, even government, move towards common goals. We now live in a global village. Here on this program, we'll bring you global issues to shape our world.
Government can do a lot with tax revenues collected for health and education.
The role of the European Union is to accompany a partner, that is Nigeria, in offering our lessons learned to see whether together we can improve that situation.
The emphasis on education, on vocational training, on the development of entrepreneurship is absolutely critical to its democracy.
The Nigerian government, we would ask them to follow up the investigations that we have had, the evidence that we have gathered, and ultimately we made a number of recommendations.
As we travel the world, we explore these issues of international and diplomatic relevance. Indeed, the global agenda that determine our national and common interests. With me, Tunde Alabi, live on the IT. All right, thank you for taking the time to join us on the program today. It's the Global Matters coming to you on this last day of the year 2021. It's a pleasure to have you join us as we take the last episode for this year. Join me now as we join the rest of the world to celebrate an African who has paid his price, who's done so much for Africa, and that the world is celebrating today. And since the announcement of his death, I'm talking about the late Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, joining us from South Africa to look at the life and times of this man. Two Nigerians who are also making impacts in South Africa there. First, I'm joined by Collins Thomas. Collins is the president, Nigeria Union of South Africa. And then we are joined by Dr. Emeka Ugu. Dr. Emeka Ugu is the president, Nigeria Doctors Forum in South Africa. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to join us on the program today. Let me start with you. Collins, thank you for your time. Tell us, what kind of man was Archbishop Tutu?
Let me begin by saying, thank you very much for this opportunity. I always I find it an honor to speak about a man in the caliber of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu, the Archbishop, is a very spiritual man. He's a very spiritual man. He's a global icon. He's somebody in the caliber of Nelson Mandela in South Africa and other global icons across the globe. He's a man of peace. He's a man of intelligence, and he's a man who understands the essence of a social cohesion in a country like South Africa, which was torn apart with chaos, with during the apartheid regime. He came in, even as a man of God, as a bishop, then to contribute his quota to make sure that whatever it is that is a crisis during that period was resolved. Tata Tutu, like I fondly call him, is an ardent anti-apartheid artist, activist rather, an international icon for human rights. Archbishop Emeritus Tutu, is someone who, until his death, has propagated for peace, irrespective of the platform, irrespective of wherever he is. He always propagated for peace. He always advocate for human rights. He always advocate for human dignity. So that's if I should speak about him, we may not have enough time to explain indeed the kind of a person that the kind of a person that Archbishop is. But one thing, or in a nutshell, is the fact that he is a very peaceful man. He is a very religious man. He loves peace. I think that's the few I'd like to say about him in the form of an introduction. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity.
Indeed, a man of peace. That's why he got that noble award that he got there. Let me come to you, Dr. Emeka. As a Nigerian, as a president of Nigerian doctors in South Africa, what do you hear Nigerians saying about Archbishop Desmond Tutu? What are Nigerians in South Africa, especially your profession, what are they saying about him, about his life?
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, and Yuletide greetings to you and the other Nigerians. I want to first of all start by speaking to the family of the Archbishop and sending our very deep-seated condolences to the family for the passing away of the revered gentleman, and also to the Bishop Tutu Foundation, to the government and the entire people of South Africa. We send our condolences. Having said that, Arch, as we fondly call him, he means a lot of things to a lot of people. To us, we remember him and we see him as that man who signifies, and that man who stands for peace, that man who stands for justice, that man who stands for equity, that man who stands for fairness, that man who stands for truth, that man who speaks and who spoke truth to power, irrespective of who was in charge. That is the way we see him, and we are both in mourning and we are both celebrating his life.
Mourning and also celebrating his life. Do other Nigerians in South Africa hold the same opinions about Desmond Tutu, Dr. Emeka? The same opinions you have shared. Other Nigerians in South Africa, they also hold
what did
the same. Well, I'm saying.
Can I get the question again, please?
What I'm saying is, these opinions you have about Archbishop Tutu, do other Nigerians, non-South Africans, other Kenyans who are just ordinary people on the street, do they see him as a man of the people, as a freedom fighter? How do they see him?
Oh, yeah, your line is not very clear, but I think you're asking how people see Archbishop Tutu.
Yes.
If I got you very clearly.
Yes.
If that is the question, very many people see him from a various perspective or various prisms. The majority of people see him as that man who led, who was always at the forefront of leading the fight against the apartheid policies, the obnoxious policies of apartheid in the old regime of South Africa, as that man who preached the gospel and used the pulpit to propagate the emancipation of people in South Africa. And even when the new government came on board, he was always sticking to them, making sure that things are going well. And at any time that he thought that people were deviating from the norms that will bring peace and will bring equity and justice to very many people, he will always speak against that. So people see him from that perspective. Some could see him as controversial because of some of the statements he made, but majority of people saw him as the man of peace who stood for majority of people, and that is it.
Right. Collins, I do know that when former President Nelson Mandela died, Archbishop Tutu was supposed to give some kind of tribute, but the ANC removed his name from giving tribute at the burial of Nelson Mandela. In fact, he was not even given any invitation to attend that burial. Archbishop Tutu had this conflict with ANC, and this is why I asked Dr. Emeka how people see Archbishop Tutu. Let me take you on that question. How do people actually see Archbishop Tutu? If ANC, members in the ANC, leaders in the ANC at the time will deliberately remove his name from giving tribute at Nelson Mandela's burial and did not officially invite him, even though he attended, damning all the consequences, how do people, South Africans, non-South Africans, Nigerians, how do they see him? Especially when we had this xenophobia against non-Africans.
Okay, that's for me. That question is for me, right?
Yes, Collins.
Okay. Thank you once again. Just like the doctor said, many people sees the Archbishop in different ways, and referring to what you mentioned about him not being invited during or not being officially invited or given the podium or the opportunity to speak during the
Nelson Mandela's
death of Nelson Mandela. I think there's always going to be a political indifferences all over the world, you know, and South Africa is not going to be different. If you remember, in the early 70s and 80s, there used to be a misunderstanding between the ANC and himself based on the ideology. He adopted the ideology of peaceful demonstration towards the liberation of the people of South Africa, the Black South Africans, whereas the ANC and the youth wing of ANC, you know, adopted a different form of a movement for liberation, which many would say is harsh or something like that. So, and that has continued until to a point where they didn't recognize him as they should. Though he was there, like you said, but didn't recognize him as they should. But it has nothing really to do with the person, you know, of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Like the doctor said, he's a very peaceful person. He's a very disciplined person. You know, some of his ideologies, even during the apartheid regime, was the equal civil rights for all, the abolition of South Africans' passport laws, the common system of education, the cessation of forced deportation from South Africa to the so-called homelands, and all that. And these are his beliefs, which is not different from what ANC believed in. The only issue or the only problem is the method of implementation or the method in which they carried out, you know, this ago. So he is a man that is loved in South Africa. He is a man that has stood for the betterment or for the best of Black South Africans. and irrespective of whatever any person from either from ANC or any other political organization might see him for. So he's loved here. To be honest, he's much loved here.
All right. Let me stay on this. Still on you, Collins. One of his darkest moments when I was reading about him was his acceptance of the headship of the Peace and Reconciliation Commission. It came under serious attack by the blacks and the ANC. They believed it gave the whites the white people very soft landing, people who committed a whole lot of atrocities against South Africans, black South Africans. They believed he used his position as the head of the Peace and Reconciliation Commission to give the white people that should probably will be in prison, jailed, or condemned to death soft landing, and that caused another friction between him and black South Africans. How well did that go with him?
Remember that he is not the founder of the TRC. The constitutor or the founder of TRC is Nelson Mandela himself in 1995. He was appointed by Nelson Mandela to chair that commission. And the essence of the commission is not for retribution, but rather for truth and but rather for healing.
Yes.
For healing process of the country. So many people felt that what he did was giving the white people the soft landing, despite all the atrocities they committed against the black community. But they've also forgotten, people also forget that if South Africa or the chairperson of the TLC then didn't go, towards peace, what would have become of South Africa? It would have been something worse than what we faced after the resolution of the TRC. Every person has his own opinion about it. But if you ask me, I would tell you that what he did, in my opinion, I think is the best, so to say, for South Africa, for peace. Because there is no need. If you check other African countries which went for retribution, just look at how they ended up. But South Africa, irrespective of the ugly past, they've been able to create what they call the rainbow nation, and that is because South Africa, through Bishop Tutu, was able to go towards the peaceful process instead of a process of retribution, which would have created a lot of crisis. So, in my opinion, I would say that he did the right thing really for South Africa, and we should really appreciate him for that as a worthy son of Africa.
Indeed, we appreciate all that Archbishop Desmond Tutu did for South Africa, and indeed the whole of Africa. Let me quickly come to Dr. Emeka. You're a medical doctor, and you're the president of Nigerian Doctors Forum in South Africa. Just a quick step away from Desmond Tutu. What is the situation in South Africa now regarding Omicron? South Africa came under serious bashing when the discovery first came.
My dressing says it all. I had to plead with the producer that I will be on duty by the time this interview will be going on, and he should forgive me and accept the fact that I will still be in my PPEs and in my full regalia, the way we dress while we are at the forefront. The Omicron is spreading very fast, as we all know that this variant is quite virulent. It's affecting people very fast, and a lot of people are picking it up very fast. The good news about it, though, from what we see on ground and what statistics have shown over the weeks and over the months, is that majority of people are not very ill. So we are not seeing a lot of admissions into the hospitals. We are not seeing a lot of people who are dependent on ventilators or other life-supporting equipment. We are not seeing a lot of people who are trooping to the hospital. We are not struggling to get beds both in private and in public health establishments in South Africa. It's quite a number of people are picking up. Majority of people, we are treating them at home and they are recovering from those basic things we are treating them with.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm afraid this is how far we can go. I most sincerely appreciate all of you. Collins Thomas, the President of Nigerian Union of South Africa, for taking the time out to join us on the last edition of Global Matters for 2021. And indeed, Dr. Emeka Ugu, you are to come out from your work to be part of this program. I was actually praying that you'll be able to make it because I know it's a busy moment for you, considering how Omicron is ravaging the world. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to join us. Collins Thomas joins us from Petersburg, and he is the President of the Nigerian Union of South Africa in South Africa. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka Ugu. I didn't ask you, where are you joining us from today?
Thank you.
In South Africa. Where are you joining, Dr. Ugu? Are you joining us from Pretoria or from Joburg? Where are you at the moment?
No, I'm in Pretoria, the capital city.
You are in Pretoria. Thank you for joining us from Pretoria today. Sincere appreciation. I wish you a happy new year in advance. And please keep safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much. Have a wonderful new year too.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you
sincere
so
appreciation
much.
to the team that's made this possible. Have a wonderful break. And until we come again next year, keep safe and enjoy your break.